You already know what time it is. This is the Certified Podcast, and I'm your host, Mike Ginn. Welcome back. This is episode number 9 of the Certified Podcast, and I'll be featuring none other than 24-year-old up-and-coming actress Daniela Reina. Daniela has one of the unique privileges of both appearing in the DC Universe and the Marvel Universe in TV shows and movies. She's done a lot of musical theater and some other stage work, as well as some other camera work. She's got some cool upcoming roles we talk about, and we also get into the history of acting, which is really dope because she has encyclopedia for her brain when it comes to the history of acting, method acting, and how all that stuff got started. So it's a really great conversation to stay tuned for. But first, I just want to let you guys know a few things going on. We are getting ready to launch, or relaunch, I guess, dcxiv.com. What does that mean? That means branded channels such as the Certified Mag, Certified Podcast, and all that stuff will be heading over to dcxiv.com. That doesn't mean you have to change anything. If you go to certifiedmag.com, it will go to the branded channel on DCXIV. Same thing with other popular networks that I have, artofmma.com, mvptown.com. Those, along with the launch of Notorious. That's a new channel we got coming up. We're also launching Acquire, and we're bringing back Ambition a little bit differently, a little re-envisioned, more about startups and entrepreneurship and all that cool stuff. We're going to be launching a few more podcasts coming up, but first things first, DCXIV.com should be launching, if not by the time this episode comes out, definitely the week of, so it's something I really want you guys to stay tuned for. Of course, you can always go to the certifiedmag.com. Like I said, it will send you directly to the branded channel on DCXIV.com. It should help everybody find some great content, maybe stumble on something you didn't know we did, and it should be a great user experience for not only the users, but it'll also be a lot easier for me as well, keeping everything up to date and keeping all the content flowing. So that's always a key. That's always what we aim for. Keep giving everybody great content, and that's the goal. Before we get started on this episode, I do want to let everybody know you can, of course, find this on iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Google Play, and, of course, YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and like everything. Tell your friends. Leave a review. It helps us grow. It helps other people find us as well. Without further ado, let's get to this episode. 24-year-old up-and-coming actress Daniela Reina. I told you she is phenomenal, so make sure you stay tuned to this episode. This is the Certified Podcast. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Certified Podcast. I know it's been a minute, but we are back, and I have a special guest, Daniela Reina. She's an actress, model. She does a little bit of everything. We're going to get into it, talk to her a little bit. We're going to try to start recording these episodes a little bit more frequently now. Daniela was nice enough to kind of push me to get this one out. So welcome, Daniela. How are you today?
Thank you so very much. No, I'm so happy to speak with you and just have this great conversation about what's going on in entertainment.
Yeah, for those that don't know, I kind of ran into Daniela a little bit by accident. I started bartending in this new place in DC, and she popped up one day, and we started chatting, and it kind of just hit it off a little bit, and she told me a little bit about herself, so I thought she'd be great to get on the show. For those that don't know anything about you, why don't you give people just like a little quick, like 30-second rundown about yourself?
Sure. My name is Daniela Reina. I am a very adventurous actress, and I'm usually based in New York, but I got to finish a musical in DC, and I'm just very excited about new entertainment, movies, film, television. I've gotten to do a lot of the superhero shows, and it's just been a great ride and meeting a bunch of people. So I hope people continue following my work and my adventure.
Yeah, before we get into this, some of your past too, it's kind of rare that one of the things I saw first popped up about you was when I started stalking, aka doing research on you.
Yes.
It was that you are one of the few people that have done both a DC comic show and a Marvel show.
I have.
Now, admittedly, they're small roles, and you're building your way up in the business, but
yeah,
that's pretty cool. A lot of people don't get to say that unless you're Dwayne The Rock Johnson or something like that.
Yes. Well, I would have to lift things up a lot and put them down to be like him. But yeah, it's been really great. They've both been based out of New York, and just there's so much love and passion for these comic book shows. I mean, like Batman was started in the early 50s, and
It's all hot
um,
now.
yeah, it's still a thing, and people, they just love their superheroes. I was actually talking to someone in the finance district the other day, and they were just telling me how like superheroes in sports, people just want something to believe in, and then there's so much talent, there's so much new technology, and it's been just so great to be able to work in both like the DC and Marvel universe.
Yeah, I guess something to believe in. Also, like kind of like that fantasy life that nobody can live, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool.
And like you said, with technology these days, they're going from, this horrible CGI and props and effects to now everything looks so realistic and like you can
It's
be there. Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, just like I always tell people, for every like 2 minutes of television, it's like 8 or 10 hours of just hardcore film, like
At least.
filming, and even the prep that goes into that is maybe like 20 hours more. But yeah, it's been so great to work with so many different creatives that they just love what they do. Everyone from like the prop people to the CGI to the people that run all the cameras and the lighting. So it's been really great to see that. Yeah, and the end results are amazing, and people just keep coming back. So I think it's really great.
Yeah, one of the other interviews I've done on this show is a guy who used to be a Power Ranger. He used to be one of the Power Rangers on RPM, and
Oh,
he, he
cool.
was kind of saying the same thing. Like, if you look like what he did the show, it was probably like 10 years ago almost.
Mhm.
And now if you look at the way they're doing the shows, it's just, the effects and everything else, they're just night and day, completely different. And that was only 10 years,
Yeah.
And it's just crazy the way technology keeps moving forward. You see it in the tech world, but
Mhm.
people don't stop and think about the advancements that have been in the entertainment world, kind of pacing everything too.
Yeah, it's amazing. And even like makeup or hair, there's new products, new, even like, it's funny, if you ever talk to a makeup artist, they know more about like chemical compounds than some chemists, because the way different chemicals work on your skin or the color, the brightness, it's crazy. Yeah, and I think a platform like a DC show or a Marvel show really bring all these great people together to produce something amazing. And I think that's been the biggest, like, such a blessing for me, as well as something that I'm really inspired by.
Yeah, no, they're pretty cool.
Yeah.
But let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about you for a second.
Okay.
What made you kind of want to start doing this? I think you've been acting what now, like 3-4 years now?
Kind of. So it's like a very funny story. I have such a huge passion for like film and television and theater. When I was like 5, I actually started like acting for a little bit, and then I did like a Spanish TV show. Luckily, I don't think you can find that video, but if you look hard enough on the internet, you
I was
probably
about to
could.
say, I would not like. It may be hard to find. I wouldn't be surprised to find.
Oh my goodness. Anyways, so yeah, it's funny. I was just always a very active kid. Like, I played lacrosse. I was a competitive swimmer. I did like Russian ballet since I was 5. Theater, all that great stuff. I just had a lot of energy. But yeah, my whole thing is you have to listen to your gut instinct, because things happen in this world. You're like, oh my gosh. But I was actually in DC doing. I studied business in college, and then I was doing a
Did
nonprofit.
you grow up here or did you grow up in New York?
Kind of. I grew up like I spent like some of my childhood in New York and DC, and then in Florida as well, where I went to school.
Oh, okay.
Yes, all over. And then, so what was I saying? So yeah, so I was here, and then I got the opportunity to like get back into acting, which is something I always really loved, with a Volkswagen commercial. And then just different things started happening where I was like, okay, I can do this. And then I ended up applying to the Lee Strasberg Institute. Everyone was like, no, you're not going to get in. It's like the best school. It's a great school. Like, everyone from like Angelina Jolie to like Al Pacino, they've all been there. It's amazing. And I was just like, you know what? Let me just submit my application. Let me go to the meet and greet. Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah, you don't
And
get anything if you don't try.
that's so true. Like, if someone says no to you, that's fine. You know what I mean? There's always so many different options. But I was just like hell bent, like, let's do this. And it was funny because I went to the meet and greet in New York, and then I had to get my wisdom teeth taken out like a few weeks later. So I missed a trip to a bunch of my friends went to Cannes, which was really fun, and I missed it because I had to get this surgery. So I'm like post surgery, and I emailed them back. I'm like, am I going to be able to be in the summer program for Lee Strasberg or not? And they were so sweet. I actually did another interview like post wisdom tooth operation. So my face is huge. I'm talking to the staff, and they were just like, congratulations, you got in. And it was amazing to be in that institute. And I like still talk to like my professors, my peers that were there, and it's been really great. And then I just went back to New York and like just continued living there. So I would go to class, and then I would go on these like superhero shows when I had my days off, which was really interesting.
I mean, I would assume that's probably most. I mean, you don't want to kind of like keep dwelling on the superhero thing, but it's kind of got to be like most of the casting calls nowadays in places like New York, right? Because there's just so many different shows that are popping up, and
really
the networks are making so much money off this stuff. They're just like, yeah, let's produce another one. Do me a pilot for this. Do this. Yeah.
Yeah, and like I was talking to one of my producer friends, and they're just there's supply, there's demand, and there's so many different streaming sites, and so many different like niche markets, and so many different kinds of ideas that people want to like produce forth. So there's so many different casting calls, and they want different kinds of actors for different ones. So I think it's really opened up the range of kind of what like there's so like actors of like different ethnicities, like shapes, sizes. It's really opened up that portal for more opportunities and like great work being done. I mean, something like Stranger Things, or even just so many different shows that are going on.
Well, I learned a long time ago that your size doesn't always matter when you got camera angles. If you got the talent and you got the personality, I mean, you can look in, especially in the male genre with like Tom Cruise, Mark Wahlberg, so on and so forth. These guys are like 5'6", 5'7".
Yeah.
And they put them on camera, and you're like, they're like 6'1". Like, no, they're tiny guys. And I mean, I'm not that big, and they're smaller than me. And I'm like, okay. So it doesn't really matter size. Like, I mean, I know you're kind of a tiny person.
I'm super tiny.
Yeah, you're like 5 feet generously, maybe.
I am. No, I'm exactly like 5 feet. My shoe size is a 5. Like 5 is a very lucky number for me.
Symbolic for you. But yeah, like with camera angles and everything, none of that really matters. Like if you have the passion and the willing to like learn and keep getting better and better, that none of that really matters. As long as you have the skill level, they'll put you on camera.
That is so true. And I think the biggest thing is, having that passion, and just when I was on set, the biggest thing was if someone had a good attitude and just treated everyone super nicely, they were the people who kept getting hired back, because it's long set hours, like 16, 20 hours, and you want to work with somebody that's positive.
That's who the producers want to work with, yeah.
Yeah, and like who treats people well, and who's ready for just another like 20th take, because that's what it takes. It takes a lot of perseverance, and just being, if you're good to people, generally people will be good to you. And then you also have to have thick skin, but it's like an interesting cocktail that makes the life of an actor.
Yeah, I'm sure. I flirted with it when I was really young. Like, actually, probably not much younger than what you are, because you were 24, 25?
I'm 24.
Yeah, I think I did it like off and on from like 17 to maybe 20, 21.
That's
like,
awesome.
Doing like commercials and stuff like that. And
Look at you.
Yeah, no, I was much different then, but it just wasn't I ended up going different paths, but it's one of those things. Like, I have so many friends that are in the industry, and they all say the same thing. Like, you can't get anywhere if you're that jerk on set. If you're the asshole, like, they're not going to want to work with you, especially if you don't have like a large resume behind you. If you're not look at people like, who's got some bad reputations. Not bad, but let's say hard to work with, like a Jennifer Aniston or Angelina Jolie. Some of these people that can be somewhat difficult sometimes. You get these, and this is rumors. This isn't me knowing for a fact, but
of course.
But because they have a name and they have a resume, people still want to work with them. But
Of course.
if you're somebody nobody's ever heard of, you're gonna get seen the door real quick, So
Yeah, that's true. And also like that paradigm of actor like relations like on stage and backstage, just it's definitely become a lot more politically correct, but also there's like there are a lot of jobs, but people are not going to risk being nasty to someone and then being fired because they
not
can
right now.
easily be they can easily be replaced. And even I've gone to work with some really great and like big people, and they're the kindest, like most humble people because they know what it takes to be there, and you have to work like day in and day out. It's a lot of disappointment. So when you do get that amazing job, like you are going to be on your A game, treat everyone really nice, know all your lines, just be prepared. So
yeah, it's a job. I mean,
it
at
really
the end
is.
of the day, it's a job. You have to take it seriously if you want to get
It
far
really
ahead.
is.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sure there's still, as in any industry, in my industry, your industry, they're scumbags that come along and they're there to like goof off, have fun, cross the line, do all that other stuff. But
Yeah.
I like to think the majority of the people are there to work and make their money, and in order to do that, you have to be professional. You have to be
really
courteous.
do.
You have to know your lines. You have to be prepared. And if you come across and you're not any of those things, once again, you get shown the door, no matter who you are. So
That is so true. Yeah, and like it's one of those things where like everyone's replaceable, but at the same time, if it's done right, like you can let your personality show through, and you can also have such a great time on set. I mean, I have like the best memories, and I've made some of my best friends on set. One of my good friends, Angel, who is currently going to be on Pose with Ryan Murphy, just giving him a great shout out. I call him my set husband.
Plug away. It's cool.
Yeah. Angel Christian Roman, he's fantastic. But I call him my set husband because he and I just ended up meeting on different sets, maybe like 20, 30 times. And he's such a great personality. And we just instantly bonded. So I talk to him like almost every day. And he's also someone who works so hard. He's done a lot with Ryan Murphy. And we got to do like the Avengers together. But yeah, it's one of those things, like he is like super talented, super sweet, but at the end of the day, it's just like work extremely hard and just be a courteous person.
Yeah, I mean, and first of all, let me get to this real quick. Plug anything you want. This show is
Yes.
I mean, yeah, it's a conversation, it's going back and forth. This show's about you. So this is all about you, your friends, whatever you want. Plug, promote. I don't have any rules on that. Please.
Fantastic.
Let people know at the end of the episode. We're going to let people know where to find you, all that good stuff, And I definitely want to talk about in a little bit what you're working on and what you got going on right now too, because I know you just told me you finished up like 3 weeks of musical theater too.
Yes. That was quite an adventure.
So are you? Because I see you do a lot of excuse me, Kaufman. I'm trying to clear my throat, but
you're fine.
I see you doing a lot of like small roles on some of these other shows. In Gotham, you did what? You were in the bus scene, I believe, with Penguin. I
was in the club. Yeah.
In the club. Okay.
Yeah, it was great. Like
Or you told me it was the one where the bus blew up.
Oh, that was like the Avengers.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can say it now. Now that it's like
now Infinity War came out. Yeah.
Yeah, I've gotten to do that. I got to do Jessica Jones, like one of the dancers.
Yeah, I actually saw that one. I was looking back. I actually went through some of the episodes. I had a hard time finding the one in Gotham, but I did find the Jessica Jones with you dancing in the beginning of that one. Yeah, I saw that one.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
The Gotham one is the first episode. It's like Pax Penguina. It's really cool. Like it was a great experience. But just plugging away stuff. A big thing, I was on set yesterday. I finished this like a small TV show in DC called Disaster Pitch. So that episode comes out in like 4 weeks. I'm really excited.
Is that like a local show or like an online show?
Yeah, it's like a local. Yeah, it's like a web series. So I think it's really cool.
Yeah, you have to send me a link when that one comes out.
I definitely will.
But I'm sorry. What I was kind of hinting at though was like, how musical are you? Like I see a lot. I see a lot of these like. These acting roles, and then when you see people cross over to stage, sometimes it's like where they started, so they're very comfortable, and the other times they have to like build up that comfort level. Where are you at on that stage?
So I would say like I'm a bigger dancer than singer, but it just like depends. I've taken ballet since I was 5, so I really love dancing. And then singing, I used to play a little bit of the piano, so I'm an alto, and I can like hit most of the notes, but I did take on this like musical theater like job because I did want to like challenge myself, like push myself more. But yeah, it's interesting. So on a scale of like 1 to 10, I am as musical as the directors need me to be.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, so it's great. And I think I'm one of those people, I do love to take a risk. Like,
yeah, it's good to step out of your comfort zone sometimes.
oh, for sure, because you learn so much about yourself. You learn how you operate and navigate in like other people's worlds, and you kind of get to see those different perspectives. I just think it also grounds you because you get to see, okay, I did this, I did that. Where am I the happiest, and where do I want to see myself in the future? So it's really, really cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, a musical theater is, you know, I've seen a lot of major actors take on musical theater, and sometimes it's like, it's almost stress relieving to them to be in a different environment, be just kind of like, you know, you look at like Hugh Jackman, right? Hugh Jackman's famous for that. You know, he did all these major movies, and from X-Men, you know, and Wolverine and a few other ones, and now all of a sudden you see him popping up in like The Greatest Showman, but a lot of people don't know that he spent years on like Broadway and doing musical theater, and that's where he's happy. Like you see this major action star, but he's actually happy doing musical theater. So
yeah, he's great. I actually, some of my friends have like worked with him. They got to do like Greatest Showman as well, and they love. Yeah, he's just like a ball of energy. Like he's everything people think he is. Like he's so nice to everyone, like really courteous, respectful, and yeah, it's like that duality of you're able to like sing your heart out on stage, and then you can have claws and fight mutants.
yeah, I would not put it past you getting claws and fighting somebody.
That's so true. But I think if that was to cross like an X-Men musical, like who knows? There's like a musical theater joke where you can make anything into a musical with the right beat and the right choreography.
I'm surprised they didn't make you one of the ninjas in Gotham.
Could you imagine?
I could, because you're feisty. I can 100% see you like attacking somebody in one of these shows.
That's so funny.
I'm waiting for you. Like I'm like, oh, she got a small role. Nope, she just attacked the star.
I love it. Like I feel like, yeah, you've seen me cry on Q. Were you there?
No, I don't think I saw that one.
Oh my gosh, yeah, we were at like we're all sitting down. I think the last time we saw each other, there was a challenge. It's like, can you cry on Q? And I'm like, yes. And then I had like 2 tears, and then I went to the other table. These like really fun blonde girls. I told them like, can you see tears? And they were like, yes, you can do that. But I guess like acting wise, I can be like really kind of like emotional, or I can like, I guess, kick ass, if that's a PG thing to say. Yeah.
There's no censor on this podcast.
Love it. Yes. Yeah, action is something I would be really interested in because it's fun to be feisty, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things like, so when we first started talking and joking around, you know, you like popped up to the roof and disappeared on me for a little while. But
I tend to disappear and then come back.
Yeah, and then a mutual friend of ours, Taylor, like started telling me about what you do, and then like when you came back, I was like, oh, hey, let's talk about this. And it was kind of funny because the way this world works and the way people just kind of meet randomly, especially.
It's so strange.
Because I think most people know that I bartend for a living in the real world, and the real world. This is the real world too, but.
Listen, are we in the real world?
But until I get paid billions to do this, and
which is awesome.
Sponsors, if you're listening, please. I'd be happy to have you on the show.
It'd be fantastic.
Yeah, I'm gonna get Daniela to be my plug woman. But,
oh my, can I? Like, yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna have her do all the pitches. No, well, maybe I don't know, maybe.
Well, that'd be a second conversation, but I like where this is going.
that would be a second conversation, but yeah, and you know, and the same thing, I'm sure in your world as well. You know, we meet so many people, and a lot of times it's just completely random interactions.
Yes.
You know, I still hold on to grudges I've had since I was like acting from somebody I had that like kind of did me wrong. You know. Yeah. And the same thing in the bar business. You see a customer or a guest, I guess, come to your bar that you know isn't a good person. That especially when they start drinking, you got to watch. They're going to get out of control. And, you know, when you see somebody come on set that isn't professional, you know, you try to get along with everybody.
Yeah.
But how do you manage that? Like, because I know there's got to be some people that you run into, like, it's small circles. As big as this
Oh, of
world is, it's
course.
small circles. You see this, oh, man, this girl again. Oh,
Oh,
man,
yeah.
that guy again. Yeah.
No, that's so funny because I guess in this business, reputation is everything. And it's also like what's said and not said. Because that's a really good question. I'm
Yeah,
trying to
because you
think
can be
like,
nice as you can be to your friends in your circle,
yeah,
but then how other people perceive you is always a different thing. You know, you can't always put
yeah,
yourself in their shoes.
that is so true. And especially when there's like a set is like, it's like a giant clock. Like there's so many moving parts and you have to keep going, going, going. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I've had like a few experiences where like people were super nice and amazing, and sometimes they aren't. And my response to that is like everyone has a different personality, and sometimes you won't get along with everyone, but you can still respect them. So I think the biggest thing is just when I see something like that, just kind of just say hi to them, but like kind of let them be.
Yeah, just kind of
Yeah,
be
that's kind of my
standoffish a little
thing.
bit.
Just like be polite, but kind of let them be. Yeah,
Now,
there's
now,
been
seeing the little I know of you, because I mean it's not like we're best friends, but I do know
yeah.
I've gotten your personality and I've gotten to know you a little bit. But the little I do know of you, yeah, I feel like if you're not talking to somebody, that probably sends more messages than you talking to them.
That is so true. Yeah, I remember because I do talk a lot and I'm very
You're social.
I'm very social. And yeah, it's funny because I remember one time I was on the state and I just like stopped talking to someone like completely, like complete silence, and they started like freaking out. They're like, "Why are you not talking? Like, what's wrong? What's wrong?" And yeah, I guess because everyone has like a different like. There's a book called Love Languages of like how people communicate or how they show
Yeah.
empathy or compassion. And my thing is like I like to engage with people, but I'm also like conscious enough if someone like doesn't want to engage, there's a reason why, and that's totally fine. Like
Yeah, I'm the same way as
my
you. Like
yeah.
as soon as I stop talking to somebody, they're like, "What's wrong? What you doing?" Like what?
That's so funny. It's funny. So I was on set yesterday, and like a good rule of thumb is you always bring a book while you're waiting for your to be
Sure.
on camera. And I was reading. I'll talk about my book in a second, but my good friend that I met, she was reading The Four Accords by I think Paulo Coelho. If it's not him, sorry Paulo, but it's a great book. And the four accords are you have to you have to be impeccable with your words. Don't take anything too personally. And then the last two are, yeah, don't take anything personally. Don't regret anything. And the last one I probably should Google, but it was such a long set day. But you do have rules on set and offset of like how to deal with people. And it's funny because it is such a social environment, but you're also there working. So you have to really know your game.
Yeah, of course. You know, I sit there and like I said, I get the same thing. Like sometimes, you know, people come in and you got it. Like you have to be social to everybody, right? Like,
Yes.
and you're a business too. You have to be cordial. You have to be social. You know, and I'm sure there's people that, especially, I guess, you know, being an actress and having these auditions, which is probably the worst part of acting, because I don't care how confident you are in yourself. You can go in these auditions and you can knock it out of the park, and you'll have like one casting director just kind of look at you blink, and all your confidence just goes right out the window. You're like, did I do okay? We'll call you. We'll let you know.
Yes.
And
We'll be in touch. We'll
yeah,
be in touch.
and they could love you, but they're not going to show you. They just straight stone face you sometimes.
That is so true.
Because they don't want to show favoritism to anyone. And
of course.
And it's like, you know, people come into my bar and I'm just like that at the same time. You know, I'm like nice to you, but that's because I got to make money off of you.
Yes.
And then you have other people, you see me just chatting, and they're like, I've seen people across the bar like, why aren't he talking to me like that? I'm like, well, you should know why I'm not talking to you like that. Because I bounce all the way up and down the bar, you know. So if you're not being bubbly and into somebody, I'm pretty sure they probably figured it out.
That's so funny. And like there's been times where like I'm very like outgoing towards somebody and then they're not, or at least like not engaging.
Well, that's just personalities, but yeah.
That's true. That is so true. And like my like a castmate of mine was telling me, he's like, some people like you'll meet, they think you're like, they just don't know how to kind of respond to you right away because they think you're like not, yeah, because it's like they think you're not genuine. And I had a really great response to that. So like, I guess a little bit about me. I grew up with like 6 cultures at the same time. So like nationally, like I was born in Colombia, but then I went to a German preschool. Most of my family's Swedish.
What part of Colombia?
So it's like, pardon? Oh, Bogota.
Okay.
Yeah, it's like super mountainous, and the weather's like Seattle, Washington. People don't really know.
You gotta remember, you're growing up in a narcos world. We all know all about Colombia.
Oh my God, no, not even. I'm not. No. It's a beautiful country, and coffee is amazing.
I have quite a few friends from Colombia. Yeah.
Yeah, no, they're like kind of crazy. So let's
kinda.
See. Very. I will take that. So it's coffee. And everyone's just, they're like very competitive in the sense of like you have to do your best always. I always feel that if I'm not working, I feel like bad. And I think that's a Colombian thing. But what was I going to say? So yeah, I was born Colombian.
Yeah, you were talking about the German school.
I went to a German preschool. Most of my family is in Sweden. Like moved to America or like the US, like I'm very like that's really a big part of my culture. Let's see. So it's Colombia, German. Oh, Russian. I went to Russian like ballet, and all my parents' friends were Japanese. So.
And then of course America.
In America, yeah, but like that rounds out to 6. I think I'm not very good at math, but so I
think you hit 6. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
If you count the United States, yeah, it's 6.
Yes. So I guess like growing up, I met so many like amazing people so quickly. So I think that's why I'm so like bubbly, like the first one to say hello. Growing up, the rule was like any like dinner party or any fun thing you went to is like say hi to everybody. So when you're like 4 or 5, like I just learned to say hello to everybody.
Yeah, it's part of the culture. My wife is My wife is Peruvian, even though
that's awesome.
And she's not the most like she'll hug and kiss everybody on the cheek and stuff, but she's not necessarily comfortable doing it sometimes.
Yeah.
But like a lot of her family is like and friends and like every time somebody comes to a party, like they literally go along the line of everybody in the room.
Oh my gosh, along the line.
Yeah, along everybody in the room, and there's like a hug and kiss, or a handshake if it's a guy, you know. And it's like, and that's for every single time a person comes into the room. And
that is so true.
Yeah, so it's just the culture. Yeah, it's one of those things. Like me, I grew up. Me and my mom and my sister, like we're not touchy feely. Like we don't really hug a lot. We don't, you know. But
of course.
And like for me, it's kind of like culture shock a little bit when I go into these large like family parties with my wife's side of the family.
Yeah.
And you know, you got to be like, you kind of have to force yourself out of your comfort zone, right? And I'm almost 41 years old. Like I'm pretty much out of my comfort zone anyway. Like I'm just used to it. I do what I have to do no matter what.
Of course.
And I don't do it like, oh, I got to do this. I just do it, you know, fun and friendly. I just go, you know, just do it. You know, I don't really have too many comfort zones anymore that I have to break into. But, you know, I remember like when I first started doing some of her family, like I'm like awkwardly like, oh, hi. Yeah. And now now when everybody comes in the room, it's like hi.
Yes.
And then I gotta force my daughter to do it. Yeah, my daughter like still has to be forced to do it. She's like, because she's only 10. She's like, I gotta say hi to everybody. Yeah, you gotta say bye to everybody. Yes. They're all doing it to you. You do it to them.
That is so funny.
Yeah, you gotta be polite and cultural.
That is so funny. Yeah, and also you want to say hi because Peruvian food is some of the best food in the world. It's like.
Yeah, I that's not the reason I married a Peruvian, but it helps.
Oh my gosh, yeah, I remember going to Peru one summer, and like they have multiple food and like gastronomy museums. Like they have invented so much of like the food we eat today that they have multiple museums for food. It's amazing.
Yeah, my wife's aunt, her tia, ceviche is so amazing. Oh my gosh. And then they'll make these big like jamon dishes and, you know, the ribs and like every time I go over when they're cooking, it's just like I'm not going to be able to move for about 5 hours.
Seriously. And some of it is like really healthy, like ceviche. Also, if I think one of your sponsors should be like the best Peruvian restaurant in DC.
Hey, Peruvian Brothers, if you want to hit me up, I'm just saying.
Yes.
Nah, we're really cool with them too.
It's like we cater, we're ready for parties, we're ready for large groups.
We know the Peruvian Brothers well because my wife's boss, she usually has them cater her Christmas party.
That's
Uh,
amazing.
and then she'll send my wife, because my wife's the office manager for her,
Mm-hmm.
and she'll send her to go pick it up like once every couple weeks. Like she'll like whenever the truck is closest to their office, like
That is
they'll always get it for the office, and it's kind of funny. So yeah, we know them pretty well by now.
That's fantastic. Okay, so because I'm one of those people that, like, if I make a mistake, I am the first one to admit it. So, okay, The Four Agreements by Paulo Coelho, which is
Okay.
something good for stage and off stage, are
No, I can respect
ready?
that.
Okay.
Finishing your thought, I respect that.
Yes. Okay. 1, be impeccable with your words. 2, don't take anything personally. 3, never make assumptions. And 4, always do your best. So that was a moment of spiritual healing with,
No, that's
with
good life
Daniela and
lessons.
Mike. It really
Yeah.
is.
No, that right there is core life lessons. You know,
It really is.
I'm big into. I'm really big into, like, not necessarily. I don't want to say self help, but I'm big into like self improvement stuff.
Yes.
I'll listen to I listen to a lot of podcasts. So I'll listen to like everyone from some of the solopreneur stuff and the entrepreneur shows, and I'll listen to you know, self improvement people like Tony Robbins. Like, I'll listen to people like that. If he can keep his foot out of his mouth and not get in trouble anymore. But you know, in general, like, I listen to a lot of those things. So when you listen to like those 4 principles that you just mentioned, you know, those are just core. Like, everybody should be doing those anyway. And sometimes you just need somebody to tell you and remind you, because everybody knows those, and what you think is common sense isn't always common to people, because if it's out of sight, it's out of mind. And
That's so true.
And you wanna say, oh, I do all those things anyway, but the moment you stop thinking about them, you're gonna forget 1 or 2. You know, all of us go and make assumptions and make asses out of ourselves left and right. You know, it's common. It's not, you know, something to be judged upon, but you know, it's something you can try to work on. You know,
That's so true. Yeah, and we're all we're in this human collective together. You know what I mean? Like, nobody gets out here alive, and
not yet.
I get. And kind of like jumping back into acting, I think that's why I love this profession so much, because you do get to put on someone else's shoes or someone else's perspective. And I think the biggest, for example, I studied the method, like it went from like Lee Strasberg, it came from the group theater, but the biggest thing is understanding human nature and being able to recreate those very real moments on stage, film, and television. You know what I mean? Because it's storytelling, it's the reality of life, but you kind of get to recreate it in a different role, So
when you say method acting, because I feel like some people take this
wrong.
No, not just so wrong, but they have different definitions of it. You know?
Yes, they do.
And you got a character like, for instance, Ryan Reynolds. Like, I've heard Ryan speak a few times about his method acting and how far he throws himself into a role. Yeah. And I don't think it means different things, but I think it's different depths of how far somebody's willing to go. So when you say method acting, what does that mean to you? Like, how far, like, do you get into a role, whether it's on stage or on camera, like, to like really do it?
Yeah, I know that's a really great question, and that's something that keeps up popping up again and again. So, like, I like to think of it as kind of like a tree. Like, the way to explain it is like a tree. So Stanislavski, he was a Russian theater like magnet. He had this method of training actors quickly, or like in a short period of time, to be able to get on the Russian stage and be able to travel. So because in Russia they take like their arts and theater very, very seriously. So he found just like key ways to make people better, like more believable 3D actors. So kind of take that like 200 years, like 100, 200 years later, to the Yiddish theater, like Lower East Side, New York. It was a lot of like Jewish cultures and like Russian and Eastern European. They started all these theaters on the Lower East Side, and people like Fanny Brice came out of it, like Funny Face, all of that stuff, and vaudeville. So a lot of like the really great foundations came from them, and then I guess kind of moving forward, it was like 3 main people, like Lee Strasberg, Stella Adler, and Sanford Meisner. They created the group theater along with other friends. And then they took everyone's different ideas of what makes a good actor. And then they developed things that were the most important to them. So, like, I guess in the acting world, you can say, like, oh, I was trained at, like Strasberg, Meisner, or Adler. And then they all focus on different aspects of it. What I focused on was more kind of, like, the psychological and even, like, physical sensation and emotion of acting. And then someone like Meisner will focus on connection, because that's what he had the most trouble doing, like connecting with his team partners. And then Stella Adler focused a lot on physicality of, you have to be doing something, like, what is your action? What is your action? So a good actor and professor told us that a good actor has all of those three traits. Like, they're able to connect with their scene partner really well. They're able to do action to move the scene. And then with, like, Strasberg method, you're able to really have that physicality and just the, like, sensory. Yeah, it's very, like, a lot of sensory. Like, you're able to feel like you're there. And it produces a really, like, natural and really, like, honest performance. And then that's, like, kind of the academic term of it. And then when someone like Ryan Reynolds talks about method acting, or someone like Daniel Day-Lewis, where they, like...
Yeah, he's another big one.
Yeah. So many times what they try to do is they live like that character. Like, they will
become
push,
the
like...
person, yeah.
Yeah, like, they definitely are very dramatic, and just that overload of this is what... Like, for example, Abraham Lincoln, he, like, he only wore, like, Abraham Lincoln styled clothing for the whole shoot. And it's just, I would say it's like an activity, or it's an exercise that people do to be more comfortable with it. It's kind of like cooking, in the sense that you have to, like, bring the heat in order to make something good. And that is one way you can do it, but there's so many different ways. Like I said, every, like, 2-3 minutes of good screen time is, like, at least 8 hours of work or preparation. So
I think my biggest fear is if I ever got into a role so deep the way some of them do, how do you remember who you are?
That's so true. There's this, like, Julia Roberts said this great quote. It's, you can be whoever you want on stage, whoever you are outside of the world. But when you come home and you look in the mirror, like, the person you're taking home is yourself. And you have to be really grounded and really know yourself. And yeah, that can happen, but it's also, like, a really, like, big life lesson that it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. It's a lot of flash, but you have the control, ultimately, like, the conscious power to be able to separate yourself. You know what I mean? Like, the stage, theater, television is one thing, and then, like, who you are as a person is also, like, who you are as a person. But I do understand how those lines mix and they blur, and it makes for interesting, like, stories and publicity, but it's something to be very conscious of.
Yeah, I'm sure. I mean, I sit there and, like I was saying, like, you know, in life in general, we tend to pick up bits and pieces of those around us, right?
Yes.
You know, people we grew up with, we tend to pick up some of their characteristics. They tend to pick up some of ours. You find yourself saying something that one of your friends always says, and then you all of a sudden start saying it. You know, like different slang and different catchphrases. So when I find some people that do that variation of method acting that goes so deep into their role, I sit there and always wonder. I'm like, well, where is you? Where's you? Where do you find yourself? And I think I heard Daniel Day-Lewis one time say that even though he goes full in, there's always a sliver of himself in every role he does.
Yes.
And that's what he kind of clings to so he can pull himself back out. And obviously you don't have Ryan Reynolds going up and shooting Vancouver up and playing Deadpool out in real life. that we've heard on the news anyway. I haven't heard him shooting up any neighborhoods. I mean, I don't know how his neighbors feel about him, but you know, who knows what he's doing in the backyard wearing a red suit. But
but you can also say that about a lot of people. I mean, you can buy a red suit on Amazon. And
well, I also think it's almost opposite with Deadpool, because I think Deadpool is Ryan. Like, you don't, like, yeah, it's a character, yeah, it's a movie, but it's his same snarky humor. It's the same that, you know, that role was kind of built for him, and that's why he spent so many years trying to get it to the big screen, because he is that smart-ass, funny, just dry, sarcastic humor. It was kind of perfect for him. And, you throw the whole action scene stuff in there, which, I mean, I'm not jealous of any man, but that dude is built like a tank. So, like I'm sure it was pretty good fit for him. But, and you see yourself and, you get into some of these roles, and especially theater, I guess. Theater probably more so than camera, because you're sitting there on stage, you're part of an ensemble, you're part of a live, situation. It's not like you can like mess up and they're like, all right, cut, let's do that one more time. You're in front of people, so if you mess up, you mess up, and you mess up.
Yeah, and they remember forever and ever.
Yeah, and so you actually, I feel like in theater you have to be more method, more in the role, more, becoming that person.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you are going to mess up. You are going to take it for granted that you can just redo it again and whatever. So.
Yeah, that's so true, and I think it's so great that I like everything you've said. I've really thought about, because it's like when you show up to work, you have, right, like you check in, you do A, B, and C. And kind of like when you do film and theater acting, you like check in, you talk to your PAs, and you have your like lines, and then you film. In theater, you're there, you do your warm-ups, you talk to your ensemble, you do your green room. And then, I always say that like theater, like Broadway, because I did some off-Broadway shows in New York. It's like blood, sweat, and tears. It's like running a marathon. Like it's a very physical, very strenuous.
Oh, yeah. I see a lot of actors. I used to work downtown, and a lot of like right next to a couple of theaters, and those actors and actresses would come in late night for like a quick snack or a quick drink before they go home, and they're just exhausted.
It's like physically, it's one of the best experiences, but it is like the Olympics. It is very physical. Like a lot of, if you watch like La La Land or even some of Emma Stone's interviews, like she was doing Cabaret before she did La La Land, but people like, especially like Broadway like legends or people who've been doing this forever, they won't drink dairy, they avoid certain like loud areas because it will mess up with their eardrums and their vocal cords. They will do like the craziest things to stay fit and and be able to work every day. Because, for example, if you're on Broadway, you're doing 8 shows a week, and if sometimes even more, if there's a special show, or on the weekends it's 2 shows. And there's been people like that have done the show Chicago. They have stress fractures in their feet, like they literally are walking around with broken feet or something, and they have to continue going. And I think it's like the passion of it, but it is very gritty. And so whenever you do see a live show, it's even more amazing, because one thing is what you see on stage, which is ridiculously good, but everything they have to do in order to be ridiculously good, it's a lot of sacrifice. So
no, I'm sure you going to a show is different than me going to a show, because you're sitting there thinking about all that backstage stuff.
Yeah, I really am. I really am. But it's also nice to go to other people's shows and just unwind and enjoy that, because it's interesting to have those two perspectives.
Have you gotten to the point yet where you go into a movie or you go into a show and you started like critiquing it, or can you actually just sit back and enjoy it as it is?
I can. So it's funny. We were on set the other day and we were having that conversation. How sometimes like I'll watch a show and be like, oh my gosh, my friend's in it, like blah blah blah. So many times, I think if it's in a genre I'm not in, for example, like an independent film in Korea, I can like watch it perfectly. But if it's like New York based or LA based, I'm always like, I know that street. Like, where's that street? That restaurant. Oh, I remember working there. Or I'm sorry, like working on set there or something like that. But it's hard because you know how much work goes into all these films and TV shows. But also, it's knowing all that, taking a couple steps back and seeing a show for what it is, you kind of fall in love with it all over again. Because you're like, oh my God, this is such a great story. Like, have you seen Master of None by any chance?
Yeah, actually I have, yeah.
So I was very late to watching that show, but they filmed all of season 1, like in my neighborhood. Like the bar I used to go to, like in New York, like where they played basketball, where they get food. I've been to all those places. And then I got to travel a little bit last year after my off-Broadway show. And it's funny. I was going through this really bad breakup, and this show made like. I always tell people like Master of None got me through a breakup because it was just so funny and like refreshing. So yeah, people have those like emotional connections to shows without critiquing them and critiquing them. So I thought that was really, really cool.
Well, it's got Aziz in there, so you know it's gonna be fun. But.
It's hilarious, yeah. And then I'll do another shout out. My friend Stephen Lin, he plays the Asian dad in the immigrant episode.
Okay.
Do you remember? I don't know how long you've seen it, but
I only watched a few episodes. I never really watched the whole thing, but
gotcha. I recommend watching it over again. But
I have so much on my watch list.
Yes, see, I love that they
keep coming out with so much new stuff.
They really do. Like, there's so much demand. People want to supply. That's why I think streaming has really. It's like the second wave. Like when studios started.
I have a few shows that I watch every week religiously, but most of them I will literally wait until the season's over, especially if it's a network show.
Of course.
And just binge watch it. Because if you fall behind 1 or 2 episodes, you're done. And I work
really
such long hours. I'm just like, and then I also have a daughter at home, so like when I have time to watch TV, it might be like 1 episode or 2 episodes or something. And I won't miss certain shows. You know, I'm big on, like, I'm super happy that Elementary came back.
Yes.
And that's one of my favorite shows. So like, I've been waiting for that to come back, and like I won't miss that. I won't miss like Silicon Valley. I won't miss I won't miss Gotham. I won't miss The Flash.
Yeah.
Like I have like a variety of different types of shows I watch.
That makes me so happy.
But it's like at the same time, you know, you tell me to watch this show, or somebody else to tell me like, what's like Black Mirror. People keep telling me to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Keep telling me to watch Ozarks. People tell me to watch what's a couple of the other ones. But there's like a number of shows, and it's like, oh yeah, and I watch a little bit. Like, yeah, this is pretty good.
Yeah.
Like Daredevil, right? When Daredevil first came out, and this is a true story.
Mm-hmm.
I watched the first episode, and I was like, man, this is phenomenal. I'm going to watch the rest of this later. it took me to the end of season 2 before I went back and watched all of them together. And then like literally in 3 days, I binge watched 2 seasons. And like I couldn't wait for the next thing to come out but it took me almost 2 years to finally get back to that 1 episode.
That's so funny. No, and it's interesting because like that's a consumer those are consumer habits now. Like in the 50s, it used to be everyone was in the living room watching I Love Lucy, you know? And now
prime time.
Yeah, now we binge watch everything because we all have like crazy hectic lives.
Yeah, prime time's a myth demands.
Now. Yeah, but it's so true. And something like Netflix is a great way to unwind, and people have those emotional connections. I did have like I'm trying to think. I had 2 cool stories that I really wanted to talk about. Is that cool?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. So I got to do, actually this is a plug. It will come out in a few days, actually. Orange is the New Black.
You're cut off. No plugs. No, I'm just kidding. Nah, please, go ahead.
You're limited 3, not 3.5.
Nah, that's cool.
Orange is the New Black. So I believe it's season 6,
season 5?
episode 6? Yeah.
It's up to season 6 now?
I believe so. I know I'm just episode 6.
See, like that's another one I stopped watching after season 2, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna catch up. I'm gonna catch up. And I still haven't caught up.
It's like a lot, yeah. But the studio was amazing. It's called The Story of Kaufman. It was the first studio in New York City, and in the wardrobe, it's like everything from like Men in Black to like Bill Cosby to the first original silent films were shot there. And when we were like in the wardrobe area, there's this like large glass pane with Charlie Chaplin's suits, and Mary Pickford, she was like the first female director producer in like the early 1900s. It was amazing. And just with everything going on, like we were being called to set, I just like had that moment of like, oh my, like they started this theater. It was like 4 or 5 friends who took a chance, and they wanted to risk like their day jobs or the vaudeville circuit to make these short films. And you could like feel that energy coming off of like, just again, like they're gone, but they left behind suits and they left behind these amazing films.
And by the way,
And
at some point, we may have to have you back on to have just an entire history episode of acting.
I
Because
love
I'm sure,
history.
like, the way you're kind of, like, reciting off some of this stuff is just so amazing to me. Like, I'm sitting there listening to you.
Oh my gosh, thank you.
I'm sitting there listening to you go in depth. Like, you should be, a teacher at this, like, when your career's over.
Stop.
Because you have so much of this knowledge. And I almost want you to come to the bar one night and just tell me all this stuff. Because, like, you're sitting there going on and on about all these different, like, little intricate like knowledge, like tidbits of history of all this stuff, and it's just so cool. Like, I'm sitting there listening to it, and I'm like, oh, here she goes again. Oh, this is really cool. Like, I could sit there and listen to this forever, but I'm sorry to interrupt. Please, you were talking about,
you're fine. No,
talking about the set. Yeah,
I love it. No, also, yeah, like, little plug, I love history. Like, I'm such a history nerd, but
it's dope.
you don't always have like an opportunity to tell these stories, but they're so fantastic. Okay, back to the story. So Charlie Chaplin, Mary Pickford, they were just like people who had failed, and they tried like theater stage stuff, and then they were like, oh my gosh, new technology, silent films, like, why not? And if they hadn't taken a chance, like, we wouldn't be where we are now, And then when they were like working with the Story of Kaufman, which is so Orange is the New Black was actually
And quick question, are they still in jail?
That's for you to find out.
I mean, it's season 6. Like, is she still locked up at this point?
I cannot reveal that stuff. But
you can't, but Google can. Hold on.
True, see, but Google gets paid by their sponsors.
Go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
It's funny. No, secret is really important. But
especially if you want to be invited back. Yep.
Basically, yeah. So what if they like listen to this podcast and they're like, I know what you did last summer.
I hope everybody listens to this podcast.
I hope so too. It's gonna create great buzz. But then anyways, last history lesson. That studio then moved to California because they just needed more room, and because like Manhattan in New York it's an island, and they worked in the studios in like Brooklyn, Queens. Some friend was like, oh, there's a place it's a small like cowboy town called Los Angeles, and their land is cheap, that we don't pay taxes to film there, and we can get a lot of help. So like that's how literally like a handful of people who took a risk to go cross country to a place they've never been because they had heard publicity about it, created this giant industry that is LA, and then that spawned like the entertainment industry we have now. So you know what I mean? I think taking a risk, being with good friends, and just like doing important things can create something giant.
Yeah, definitely. That's really cool. Like, just listening to you tell me like the whole thing about the history and stuff like that. Like, I'm just like blown away.
Thank you. I appreciate. Yeah, there's so many like little history tidbits.
So
I love.
So that means you can't tell us anything about the role, though. That sucks. Like, you're being a little secretive. Like, I'm like, are you an inmate? Are you getting like? It's
called red herring. You have to watch and see. That's so funny.
I mean, you're not getting jumped by like 20 inmates, are you?
No comment. No, it's a good scene. It's funny.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So what's the other story you want to tell?
Other story. Let me see. Oh, so my school, I'll plug Rollins College.
Yeah.
At one point, Mr. Rogers and and the guy who played the guy from Psycho, you know, like the horror movie, they were classmates in my old college.
Anthony Hopkins?
Anthony Perkins.
Perkins, okay.
Yeah, they were like in the same, they were like classmates.
Oh, I'm thinking of Silence of the Lambs, never mind.
I know, yeah, everyone gets them confused, but they both went to Rollins along. My school's like, I really love it. It's this little small liberal arts school where.
Is that up in New York also?
It's in Florida, actually.
Oh, okay. What part of Florida?
Central Florida. Winter Park, Florida. 328.
Over by Orlando.
Yeah. It's like it's a very interesting little town. I could tell you many stories, but that's for another time.
I've driven through it a time or two.
That's awesome. But yeah, they were like in school together at some point, and completely opposite spectrums of entertainment, but they still have a part of history, which I thought was really cool.
It's always funny because a lot of people don't even know about Mr. Rogers. Like, they don't know his like history before he became the host.
Yeah.
And like he was an actor for a while, and he did a bunch of
Mhm.
stuff, and then all of a sudden he became this iconic host for the last 50, 60 years of his life or whatever,
Yeah.
and that's all he's known for now. Like if you
Yeah,
look
it's really cool.
if you look him up, you see like, wait, he did other stuff. Yeah, he did other
I
stuff.
love it. That's so cool. Oh, also another plug. Yeah, his movie is gonna be. It was featured at Sundance, so I'm a huge proponent of Sundance. They have my heart. I try to go every year, but his a documentary about his life is coming up, so it should be on a streaming network or it should be in
Yeah,
theaters
I saw the
soon.
preview for
Yeah,
it. I saw the preview for it. It looks pretty good.
yeah, it's really cool, and it was. I saw a little bit of it, but it was just great to see everything going on. And then like film festivals, I guess I'll do a little plug. They're just, if you can go, just even if it's like for a day or two, try to go, because people are just there's so much passion for what's new, like pushing boundaries, pushing limits. Like, I really recommend it.
Yeah, I feel like it's a fun thing to go to, but it's more of an industry thing.
Yeah,
It's
that's
almost
true.
like, for instance, every year in DC we have the big Zinzi ball. It's like a big bartender's ball
Oh, cool.
where like all the money goes towards a different charity, usually some kind of kids
Uh-huh.
charity, and the family's been
Yeah.
throwing it for I think 30 years, 40 years now.
Yeah.
And it's one of those big things, and it's not necessarily a quote unquote bartender's ball,
Yeah.
but we're the ones that go. You know, it's all the industry people, it's all the people that have you know, you get an invite through a distributor or somebody that
Mhm.
has like a connection to the Zinzies, and like that's how they kind of get you in.
That is
And
so cool. My
you know,
question is, do you have a plus one?
yeah, my wife. But
Oh, plus three? Like,
yeah, maybe, yeah.
oh.
The thing is, like, so, and I haven't actually even gone in like the last 3 or 4 years, but because it's a late night, it's a long night. It's one of those nights you wake up the next day like, what
You're
day
like,
is
what
it?
happened?
Yeah,
Am I in the,
what day is it? That's pretty much what you like. Is it still the next day, or is it like 3 days later? You don't know.
but I'm just gonna like throw this out there. Have you ever, let's say, partied in one state and then waking up in another state, like another state, literally, like crossing a state
Not,
boundary?
not well, unless you count Maryland, Virginia. Other than that, not that I remember. But my point was kind of like that. You know, you have these big industry things, and
Yeah.
if an outsider may have fun at them, but they're not going to really get them the way like industry people get them. Like
That's true.
You like I have a friend Ben who acts in the city, and he goes to some of these things too, and he's always telling me, and like, you know, you go to some of these things, man. They have so much fun, but
Yeah.
that's because it's your circle of friends, it's your movies that you're getting ready to try to push to the society, and like, you know,
True.
so they're fun for us, but not nearly as fun as they are for you.
I know, but I will say, like, you guys can there's still people
No, it's a great experience. Yeah,
who
great
go
experience.
and, like, they don't have any ties to the industry and they still enjoy them. So I will say it's like,
It's on my bucket list, no doubt.
yeah. It's funny. Also, I think a term
I want to go to
used in
Cannes
this-
actually.
Yeah, it's going on right now. I was going to go. Well, I went in 2016 briefly, which was really fun. And then last year I had that wisdom tooth operation. So I had to back out last minute. I felt so bad.
You
But it
have
happens.
plenty of time. 24 years old, you have plenty of time to take over the world.
That is true. Oh my gosh, thank you.
Morgan Freeman and all those guys didn't even start till they were in their 30s. And look at them.
That's so
Look at them
true.
now. Well, not look at the accusations, but
Oh
look.
gosh, but
And I'm not going to touch that one because I'm still a big fan of his, and I don't know if they're true or not. But
yeah,
you know, it's one of those things. Like, look at the longevity of his career, and he didn't start till he was like 35 or something like that.
Yeah.
33. So
yeah.
you,
I think
you being in the business this early, I mean, the sky's the limit.
I appreciate that. Yeah, and I guess one last like touchstone, something a really great acting professor said is like, if you're honest and genuine in the work you do, day in and day out, like, you can do whatever.
That's a great quote to end on. I definitely, I think I'll wrap it right there. We're about an hour. I don't want to take up too much of your time. We can always have you back on, talk about what you're working on, new projects.
Thank you.
But real quickly, anything you want to plug that you got coming out, or anything that you're working on right now?
Well,
Or is it
yeah,
all
just
kind of under wraps?
finished my musical. Orange is the New Black will be coming up soon.
And you said that's
just
season 6, episode
6.
6. All right, cool.
Yeah, so that's gonna be fun. And then
If you see a little 5-foot fiery Colombian in the scene, that is Daniela.
just it's fun. I'm getting to take like a tiny break, And then there will be some new projects coming up, but I can't reveal too much.
I won't. I don't want to get you fired off set, so I will respect that privacy. But definitely make sure you let us know so we can let everybody know, because I think you have a very bright future, and I love your personality.
You.
I'm blown away by your knowledge of the history of the business. So that
I appreciate that. I
might have to have you come in the bar and just like finish this conversation.
Yeah, that'd be really great.
I really want to know more about this, especially when you're talking about all the method acting and the 3 different branches and everything else. That was really cool.
Yeah, it's amazing. I've just been like so blessed and grateful to all like my professors, to everyone who's like given me a chance to learn something new, and also like just watch old classic movies. You get to see how things were back then, or at least the illusion of it, which is really great.
Yeah, I've never been really into like the whole black and white and the musicals. Like, I'm not a huge musical fan in general.
Yeah, that's fair.
I was the same guy. Like, I remember a long time ago I went to see Dreamgirls, and
oh my god,
I didn't realize going into the movie. Like, I saw all the people in there. I knew there was some music in there. I didn't know it was all a musical. And I don't think most of the crowd did either. Because like about halfway through it, like they burst into another song, and I was like, "Here we go again!" And the entire crowd just started laughing because they agreed with me.
Oh my gosh, that is too funny.
And it was an amazing movie. Like if I watch it today, I'm like, man, that was a really good movie. But at the time, like I don't think people were really ready for musicals and movies because it had been such a long time, such a long gap between like the 50s and 60s to like doing it in the 90s and 2000s and now.
Of course.
Because for a long time nobody did those on camera anymore. Like it wasn't a thing, and now it's like a big thing as usual.
It really is.
Though I will unfortunately point out they did kind of ruin A Christmas Story. I'm just going to put that out there. Like
I'll say no comment, and the spirit of Christmas lives on.
If anybody wants to watch that movie, please watch the original, not the live version. I'll be generous, call it the live version. I was not the only old person very upset by the movie that we grew up on.
I think you're pulling a Grinch move right here.
Yeah, a little bit, but no,
that's too funny.
I do love the concepts, and I love how hard, like I said, I've gotten to know many actors and actresses that do, like especially from like the Shakespeare Theater or the National Theater or any of those down, the Landsberg and all that stuff downtown. And I've met so many of them. I've met the person that played like the Queen in one of them, like the King Charles stuff. And I've met that entire set that goes between New York and DC and like setting it up, and like those guys and girls work so hard, like
so hard,
and they're exhausted in the night, and all they want is a couple drinks and some food and go home to bed and crash.
That's so true, and repeat,
Yeah, you think they're like, you think they want to go out and party, but nope, they want to go to bed.
They do, yeah, because you have to be like up at 6, 7 for your call time.
Yeah.
Because, there's that little saying. It's like if you're on time, you're late.
All right.
So you want to be early to be on time.
So real quick, where can everybody find you? Shout out all your social media real quick so people can find you.
So I really love my Instagram. It's Daniela, Danila, _A, Reina, Reina.
Don't worry, people. I'll put a link in the show notes.
Woo! On Internet Movie Database, and I have some fun videos coming out. So I will give out the links and stuff. But yeah, thank you so much for listening to this amazing podcast. I've had a great time, and it's been a fun time to like reminisce about this year as a whole and like what I want to do. And it's always great talking to you. Like our favorite DC bartender.
Flattery will get you a free drink. But no, thank you so much. I don't think I can top that. Everybody, thank you for listening. We're going to try to get back more on track this summer, try to get more episodes coming out. Unfortunately, real life time tends to get in the way sometimes with recording these, but I'm going to try to get quite a few coming out this summer, so stay tuned. Make sure you follow Daniela on Instagram. I'll include links to all her social media so you can find her and everything else. So thank you for listening. We'll be back soon. This is the Certified Podcast.
Woo! Thank you so much, guys.